Hi, this is Pastor Ted Marshall. Welcome to the Last Patrol radio show, broadcasting around the world. And we want to thank you for listening and watching. And today we have a very special guest. And that guest, of course, her name is Debbie Alley, and she is a Air Force veteran. And she is a veteran mom, 2 times veteran's mom. And what's really unique about Debbie, she's a member of our church. She's a strong Christian woman, part of our choir. She's just a wonderful person to be around. And because she's Air Force, that makes her extra special in my book. Debbie, thank you and welcome to the Last Patrol radio show.
Thank you.
We are going to be talking to Debbie, and we're going to be talking about her 2 sons also. But first, let's get started a little bit about Debbie. Tell us about your service. And you made the rank as a Master Sergeant. And tell us about your length of service and where you did and where you went. And why did you go into the service?
Yeah, well, I grew up in Baltimore, Maryland, and I was born in 1960, and it always wasn't the most pleasant things there. So I wanted to go away. I wanted to go away to college. And I said that to my father, and he said, "We have plenty of good colleges right here. And if you think I'm spending money to send you away, you're nuts." And he was right.
Yeah.
So I had friends that went in the military, and I went in the Air Force right after graduation. And I'm very, very happy that I did.
So tell me, right after graduation, did you have a summer before you went in after graduation?
Only because they didn't have enough people to make up a flight.
Oh, good.
You had to wait. I was supposed to go in June. I ended up going in November.
Oh, okay, great.
So I was like on standby.
Yeah.
But it all worked out. And I worked at a Christian camp in the summer, River Valley Ranch in Maryland. Great place.
Well, tell us about when you went into the service. You went down to Lackland Air Force Base, of course.
I did. Everybody goes to Lackland. Some people hate it. I loved it. Like I said, I came out of Baltimore, and what I liked most about the military, they had rules. You could understand if somebody was screaming in your face, you knew why. That didn't always happen where I grew up. People screamed in your face, you really didn't know why. Anyway, so yeah, and then I left Lackland and I went to Biloxi, Mississippi. I was an administrator. Later they called it information management when all the computers came in. And I really enjoyed that. And my first assignment was Misawa Air Base, Japan.
Wow.
I was there 3 years. I married in tech school, very nice person, but I think we were just, a lot, that happens a lot. You're young, you're getting ready to go somewhere, and people just kind of latch on to each other, but he's a lovely person, and he's, whatever, it happened.
After Japan, where did you go?
I went back to Mississippi as a student training advisor.
Oh, okay.
And that's where you weren't their basic training TI. You were, while they were in tech school, you were the one that marched them all over the place and inspected their stuff, and you were their mother or their father.
In your family, were you the one of the first women in your family to be in the military?
I think I was. I'm sure I was. My dad was a Marine in World War II. I was in the Pacific and saw a lot of things. And his brother was in the Army, and he was in the my husband's uncle was in the Bataan Death March, but my uncle was in the Battle of the Bulge. Yeah, survived that. And so I have a lot of heroic people in my background. I just did admin.
It's in the genes, though. But no, there's some of those genes were passed on also to be that, because it takes, especially in that time back then in the military, it takes a special person, a special woman that would say, "Okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to serve our country." And hopefully, I don't know if you ever met Colonel Linda Pugsley. She's part of our radio ministry here at VRM, but we definitely need to speak with her. She's was a Vietnam nurse, and she was my mentor for me to become a pastor. But she's a lot of fun. She is a lot of fun. But let's go on. I want to talk about you. how long did you stay in the military?
I stayed active duty until right after Desert Storm.
Okay.
And they were asking, after a war, they have too many people and they start inviting certain people to, leave if they have overages. I wasn't going to leave, but my husband worked in accounting and finance, and he was originally a lobsterman. So he wanted to go back to Maine and lobster again. They were in Maine, they were shutting down lobster licensing. So, we did. I didn't really want to do that. But so I got out after 14 years, and then I had a 6-year break, and I went back in 1998. And I went to the Maine Air National Guard. They have the KC-135s. They're excellent. Oh my gosh, I can't say enough good about those people. They are excellent people. I've never worked with, well, I've worked with a bunch of good people. These guys are great.
Now.
And gals.
Now for the rest of the story. You had 2 sons. And
those people.
Those people, yeah. Her 2 sons are part of the elite of the Air Force and part of the elite of the military. And when an airplane goes down into beyond the battle lines, on the other side of the battle lines where the bad guys are, these are the guys that go in and bring them out. It's pararescue. And I had a chance to meet some of the guys when I was in Vietnam at pararescue, and they tried to recruit me. And I said, if I can't bring my dog, I won't go. And at that time, they didn't have they had no idea that canines could be very useful. The pararescue. This is before the harnesses and the parachuting with the dogs and so forth. But had a lot of respect for them, and they were fun guys to be around. And I saw them training at Lackland, and I didn't understand at first what was going on. I thought I was never going to leave Lackland. Basic training, went through the Air Police Academy, Security Police Academy, then went to combat AZR training, and also went through the canine training there. So I was in Lackland like forever.
Yes, I bet you.
And I saw these guys while I was in Lackland, and in basic, you don't get to see much, but now we were on the base, and I saw these guys running down the middle of the road with a log, and they were in white, complete suits, covered head and toe. I guess they're chemical suits, and they're running in the hot sun in San Antonio, Texas. And then a few days later, these guys show up at our canine area where we're doing a canine demonstration for the general public. And they came over and started talking to us about, why don't you guys just stop this and come with us? And he says, are you crazy? I saw you guys yesterday. Why were you doing that? Don't you know it's hot outside? And they just laughed. But these guys go through swimming that you wouldn't believe. And I invite you to look it up, pararescue, and their training. You can see it on YouTube. Their training is incredible. The swims they have to do are second to none when it comes to endurance and what they have to do. And there's a huge washout ratio that goes in this, and it's even worse than the SEAL washout ratio.
Yeah, they have a 13-week in-doc program. If you live through the 13 weeks, then you go on for 2 weeks of intensive medical, Navy diving, and parachuting. But first you have to make 13 weeks, and they have the highest, as you say, washout. And they have right over the door, I've been down there several times with my boys being down there, but right over the door says never quit. When you walk through the door, never quit. So funny.
Remarkable. Well, when you heard that your boys, and tell us about which one went in first and when did they go in second? So there was some age difference. So
Rob, the oldest one is Robbie, and he went in first, and he joined the Navy. And he told me that he was going to be a Navy pilot. And I said, he was in college in Jacksonville University. I said, Robert, they had an ROTC program. I had worked in ROTC. I'd worked in headquarters ROTC, but for the Air Force. I said, Robert, did you write that down? Did they say it in writing? Did you sign that? You don't know, Mom. This isn't the Air Force. Okay, fine. You're not going to be a pilot. And okay, so they made him a navigator. Well, that's not what he wanted. But anyway, so he asked to transfer. He wanted to be a Navy SEAL, but they didn't have officers, is what I understand. So he couldn't do that. So he called me. I was with the Maniacs at the time and asked to speak to my commander who was in charge of the KC-135, excuse me. And anyways, because I didn't know a lot about the pararescue. And so I put him on with Colonel Atkinson, and he took a lot of time telling him exactly how tough that was. Anyway, so long story short, Big Robert, or my son Robert, got into pararescue first. And then my son August followed. And they, I'd been married previously to different fathers, 2 different marriages. And so they didn't have the same last name. And my second son is his dad's Hispanic from Puerto Rico, and well, America, Puerto Rico, both. Anyway, and so they look totally nothing alike. So it was kind of funny. It was kind of like, because pararescue is a small community and everybody knows. And when later, as this stuff would start coming out, they were brothers. Like, really, you're brothers? But anyway, I got lost somewhere. So then August, he decided he was going to go in the Air Force, and I thought he was going to be a mechanic or something. And he came back from seeing the recruiter and told me he was going to be pararescue. And I was like, oh my gosh, not too. Called my oldest son. I said, you're not going to believe this, what your brother's just done. He's thinking, what, did you go to jail and something? No. So anyway, they both got into it. When August went up to run, before you could even get accepted into that, before you went to basic training and you said, I want to do this, you have to run these special tests. August forgot his sneakers, so he ran it in his bare feet. He ran that race. He blew it out of the water. So it was pretty funny. But anyway.
Now, one of your sons was severely wounded.
That was the youngest one.
Okay.
Yeah. The oldest one, this is interesting too, Ted.
Okay.
And this is faith. This is God. My oldest son was in Afghanistan in 2010, and he was the officer of the pararescue unit there. And there was a team that was supposed to go out on a mission, and Robbie was supposed to be the commander on it. And for some reason, at the end, very last minute, they pulled him off and they put this other young man on there, Joel Gents, God bless his soul. And yeah, the whole helicopter went down. There was only one person that lived through that. Had my son been on it, he'd have been gone. And so later down the line, I met Joel Gents' mother at a Wounded Warrior games for my younger son. She had just happened to walk in wearing the blue Air Force shirt. I didn't know who she was. And I said, there's a seat here. Would you like to sit by me? And she started sharing her story. As soon as she spoke, chills went up and down my arm. I called my oldest son on his cell phone, who at that time worked at the incognito unit with pararescue out of North Carolina. And they never could take their phones in with them, so that he answered on the first ring. So I know it's God. I said, Robbie, what was the name of the young man that you took his, or he took your spot? He said, Joel Gents. I said, what was the flight? He said, Pedro 66. I said, Robbie, his mother's sitting right next to me. He said, get her name, get her name. I have to tell her what happened that day. And we've been connected ever since, and Robbie has too. So, but the reason I was at the Warrior Games was because my youngest son, August, the year after my oldest son was there in 2010, August was stationed there in 2011. And they went out to bring in 3 downed Marines. And one helicopter lays smoke, and the next helicopter goes down. And so he was on, I believe, the first helicopter that was laying the smoke. They had to change it in the middle of he was supposed to go down, but for some reason they had to change it while they were in the air. So he was shooting and laying smoke with the rest of them and whatever. Anyway, he got shot through both legs. They sit on the side of the helicopter, the PJs, with their legs are crossed, kind of. And someone, who my son was shooting at, in all honesty, shot at him, got him through, went through his left knee and through I think it actually bounced off part of the helicopter, something went through his left knee and also through his right shin bone. And so then at first he thought it was a flare that had popped back in, and then he realized he was shot. And anyway, so yeah, that happened in 2011. And thanks to God, he was he's made it. He had over 20 surgeries. And the last one they were trying, it was in, I think we were in Florida. They were trying to save the leg, and the doctor stopped the surgery, and he came in and spoke to me, and he said, I'm going to wake him up. I'm not going to finish the surgery because it's not going to do what he needs. And I looked at the man, and he had a cross on his neck. And I said, sir, let me tell you something. When you tell August that isn't going to work, he will tell you to take that leg. And in the Bible, when it talks about Paul and running the race, and I am going to run the race. And I said, and August will tell you, take that leg, and he will continue to run the race, and God will guide him. So, and that's what happened. So they took the leg in 2014. First, he wanted to go and do the warrior program that in that year, the warrior games, they were having it. And if there's any veterans listening that are wounded and you are in a spot and you think, gee, I'd like to compete again, look into the warrior games, because that is the open door, and they get you moving, they get you all kinds of sports, things you don't even think you can do anymore. Yes, you can. You can do it, and you will do it, and they'll show you how to do it, and you'll just adapt it. Now, I saw this guy, Anthony, was Marine. Oh my God, bless us. He had two legs gone, and part of one of his arms was missing. He's scrappy in a basketball in a wheelchair. He played wheelchair basketball. And then he also played, what's that other one? Wheelchair rugby or lacrosse. I think it's rugby. Brutal.
Yeah.
Boy, was he scrappy. And he was just so happy to be alive and be able to take his two daughters to school. So anyway, any wounded warriors who are interested in still competing and you need something to get you out of that dark hole, Warrior Games will help you. It's your pathway to the Invictus Games that Prince Harry, now Duke of Sussex, started those Invictus Games. Warrior Games is your first step. So Google it.
Outstanding.
Yeah.
Outstanding. Yep.
I'm sorry, I got lost somewhere.
No, that was fine. What was strong about that whole presentation that you said was the strength that the Lord, that you knew that but speaking to another Christian.
Oh yeah.
Being the doctor, that he's going to understand. He's going to understand what your son, his strength is going to be.
Sure. One more thing, Ted. I'm sorry. And when August got shot, he had a cross that I had given his birth dad when we were married and such, and gold chain and a cross, and it had broken when he was in Afghanistan. He had it in his pocket. He always wore it, but it had gotten broken. So when they cut him out of his clothes and they were, taking him back to wherever they take him before they get you out of there and blah, 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 he was yelling, "Don't take me out of here without my cross." Which we all know the cross is a symbol. God's with you, whether he had that piece of metal or not. But I just love that he
had the conviction to stand where he didn't need it.
And they took it out of his pocket and they taped it to his neck.
Good.
And when he finally got to San Antonio's, where they finally brought him back from Germany, blah, 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 blah. When he got down there in the BAMC hospital down there, military hospital, that his birth dad took it to a jeweler, and the jeweler fixed it for free when he heard the story. I thought that was so sweet.
We are so blessed in this country that we have people that care about our veterans, and we have strong women like Debbie and her family that reflect to us what this country needs right now. It needs strength. It needs strength. It needs to have a reliance on the Lord. It needs to gather their strength from Him. And also, Debbie, I wanted to ask you about you now still live up in Maine, but you're part-time here in Florida.
Yes.
And someday soon, we hope that she does not become a permanent snowbird. We'd like to have you down here and become a real bird. No. We'd like to have you down here in Florida.
I'm a bird.
But no, we're you're involved with so many things now at our church, but also you're still involved with the veterans community.
Yeah, well, I'm with American Legion also.
Okay.
I've been with American Legion for years on our island, and I'll tell you something funny.
Okay.
since I've been down here, I've mentioned the American Legion. Well, we live on a small island in Maine. My husband grew up there. I came from Baltimore, like I said. And there's no bar in that American Legion. It was just these good old World War II and Korean, and they didn't treat the Vietnam guys very nice. So there wasn't a lot of Vietnam guys in that organization at the time. And it's a small place and blah, blah, blah. Anyway, we don't have all that, the bar and all this stuff, thank God. But when I would say to people down here, well, I've been for years helping with the American Legion. I've been the adjutant. I've been the commander. I've been the service officer. I'm still an adjutant, and again do the service officer stuff. And the first thing they said is they make these horrible faces, and I'm like, what? What's wrong with it? And they said, well, all they ever do is drink. That's what they said. I said, well, I don't drink, you know? And I said, and we don't have a bar. But the American Legion is the biggest veterans organization that goes and lobbies for the veterans' rights. So that's what's important to me, is that they're out there fighting for the veterans' rights. And here's another little tidbit, people. If you're a veteran and you get put in a veterans hospital, and your family, you're going to be there a while maybe, and your family wants to be near you. If there is a Fisher House, the Fisher House Foundation, there's almost 100 Fisher Houses out there now. If your hospital has a Fisher House and you look into that, it costs nothing for your family to stay there, nothing. And they are wonderful. They treat you so well. They're a blessing. Okay, I'm quiet now. Your turn.
No, you mentioned the Vietnam veterans and American Legions and VFWs and so forth. And there was a time, of course, when we came back and we weren't treated very well by them. And a lot of us turned away from any organizations. And eventually what happened is we started our own. Vietnam Veterans of America was one of the first ones that I became a member of. And then there was sub ones that came after that. We had, of course, one of my favorites, of course, Vietnam Dog Handlers Association, also were in Canine.
Wonder why you like that.
I don't know. Well, it's a flock thing, right? Or all of us like to stay in the same pack, you know.
Of course.
But nowadays, one of the things that we're looking at also, these veterans organizations that are out there that are really serving. And one of the things we're doing here at VRM is we're really taking a hard look at organizations. And we're trying to separate those that are by name only, veterans organizations. And we are going to be doing a special program on the last patrol where I'm going to be naming names, and I'll have information about some of the organizations that are not who they're supposed to be. And I know this could line us up for different problems and so forth. But, I'm going at this biblically. The Lord wants us to weed out this mustard seed, being able to find the ones that are real and grow from the shack. And we're going to do that because I'm afraid that too many people take advantage of any veterans organization and put out the American flag and say, we're here behind it. Well,
you're right.
Let's check it out. And the best people to check that out is my listeners out there, the veterans, the veteran next to me here, for us to be aware of these things that are going on and really check these things out. And when you have experience with an organization that's good, and like the Fisher House, like the VFWs that you're working with the other organizations, the Wounded Warriors projects, the Wounded Warrior Games and so forth, these are great things that have just come along in the past 15, 20 years, maybe 30 years, that were not available back then.
No, they weren't. And can I tell you, Ted,
Sure.
Thank you to the Vietnam vets, because the Vietnam vets have stepped up for these young guys and gals. They have stepped right up to the plate, and they are helping them and mentoring them and making sure they don't have to feel that what they experienced. And so I just find that as a blessing.
We're just happy to do that. I know I was involved with the organization, and it was the Vietnam Veterans of America. And the call came out after Desert Storm that when these guys come home, do not let them be, when they get to the airports or when they come home in group, do not let them be nobody out there to meet them.
Right.
and we made sure that we had groups of large groups of Vietnam vets out there with flags and everything else to say the simple words that mean so much. Welcome home.
Amen.
And on that note, the best welcome home that you can receive, of course, from your peers, from other veterans, but the greatest welcome home that you're going to get is through Jesus Christ. And no matter what you do, where you've been, and you strayed away, whatever you've seen, whatever PTSD events have caused you to feel that you are alone, like nobody understands you, well, he does. You see, he knows you. He knows every inch and every molecule of your soul. He knows how you hurt. And above all, I can say the strongest of the strong still sometimes they need to be humbled, and they are humbled. And when you talk about people that are the strong, we're talking about our special forces folks, those that are out there that are to save lives as pararescue. Sometimes they wonder if their job is worth it. But all they have to do is look in those faces of those that they brought home that have been saved. And as a pastor, we need to take a look at those that are out there that need to be saved now. And we hope through this ministry that we're able to do that. We're able to help at least put that spark into them to take a look at what Jesus Christ can do. To take a look that the Lord is right there. He's right with you. He's right next to you. And is not only is he your battle buddy for this time on earth, but he's with you for eternity. Okay, I'm off my soapbox.
Hey, it's so true. And I'll tell you I just went to the Invictus Games last year you can only compete twice, and it was my son's second time to compete.
Mm-hmm.
And we were glad because his daughter was old enough to she'll remember this.
Mm-hmm.
However, they had a forum, Prince Harry and some very lovely people held this forum where we could just talk and listen to him. And this young man, excuse me, who was wounded, and he told his story. He was sitting on the sofa contemplating suicide. And a commercial came on about the Invictus Games, or it was either the Warrior Games or the Invictus Games. Mm-hmm. And it completely changed his perspective. And he says, it got me moving again. I can go out there, and these fellas, they have the faith of a mustard seed, let me tell you, and gals. They have the faith of a mustard seed, and once they catch that wave, they go out and they encourage and bring it to the others. So it's a blessing.
Those that are have this, we get comparisons where people we talk about the inner strength of people, and the inner strength of what inspires them, what keeps them going, what are their goals, and you can see where the genes have passed a tremendous amount of strength to her sons from her, and her steadfastness with the Lord. And not only that, Debbie, that you continue to serve. Our time is not up. I mean, I don't care how old you are, you can still serve. And there's things that you can do, and you can do remarkable things. And when I look back and I look at the things that some people have done around us, are amazing things that they've done, even being handicapped, even being missing limbs. Just briefly, I want to say to Deborah Stern and John Stern. John Stern was a pastor, and he passed away last week. He was a Vietnam veteran and was in the Hill of 538. Survived after 3 days of lying out there in the mud and the piles of bodies. He was found alive. on that hill. And brought him back, and he lost his right arm, most of his right arm. His leg was severely damaged. He lost part of that, and other tremendous wounds. He came back and trusted the Lord, became a pastor, and started the Steer Ranch in Arkansas, where they would take homeless veterans and homeless people, feed them, love them, and take care of them. John was a musician, also a singer. He was John was the pastor that would do our services at the Vietnam and All Veterans Reunion in Melbourne, Florida, which was the largest, or is the largest veterans reunion in the country. And up until about a year ago, he couldn't make it. He couldn't come back. And myself and Kenneth Torres, who's another pastor, stepped in. It took two of us to fill his shoes. And we miss him. We love him. We know where he's at now. And I just want to say this to his wonderful wife, that thank you. Thank you for all the support that you provided for him. You were with him everywhere, traveled all over the world with him in his ministry. And that you are so missed. And we hope to see you soon. And hopefully we'll see you again at Melbourne. Thank you, Reverend John Steer. And God bless. We live in a time where we meet some remarkable people, and some remarkable people can make some impressions and give us some guidance. And when we come back down to you, we see just the humbleness that you have. We see also the love that you have for this country. Not only that, but the love you have for your family, and the love you have, above all, for Jesus Christ.
That's the truth.
Absolutely.
I'm Deborah Ellie, and I approve that message.
Great shot. Keep that shot, Drew. We have so much fun. You see, people look at church sometimes and think, oh, it's all boring and blah, blah, blah. I have more fun at church from the people friends that we have here. And what's really nice about this also is you don't have to worry about it. If we're going someplace, or there'd be times back in the older days where are you going again? I'm going to go over here. You're going to go there, go there. Group of us get together. It doesn't matter where we are at. We get into a restaurant or someone else, and people see the laughter. They see the joy. They see the love. And it looks like it's a family reunion where we're at. And yet it is. Yeah, we're in a very special family. And here at Veterans Radio Ministry and the Last Patrol Radio Show is a very special family, a very special time that we were able to spend. We hope to have you back.
Thank you.
And when your sons come back, if they come here, we would love to have them on the radio.
That'd be so neat.
I'd be honored to have them here.
Ted. Yes.
And
August is actually still active duty.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, that's the funny thing. He's the first above the knee Air Force pararescue amputee, still active duty.
He's training him now, isn't
he? He is in Tucson,
Okay.
Arizona. So he's not, I don't know. I'm not sure what they do out there. I'm old, but
if they tell us, they'd have to kill us.
They'd have to kill us. But the oldest son, Rob, he's down now in Texas, where they bring him in as pups. You know, he's down in that business now. That he's actually he's got his 20 years. He can retire, but he also has 4 children, so I'm sure he won't.
You gotta feed him.
Anyway.
Well, before we go, I just want to thank you again for coming to the show and taking the time to come by. You're welcome back anytime. Any projects or anything that comes up on any of these Wounded War projects or the war game, please let us know. And we'll try to contact people. And
they're going to, they're having Invictus games again.
Okay.
It's usually every 2 years, but because of COVID and they had to postpone, it's in Dusseldorf. And I believe it's happening in September, Dusseldorf, Germany.
Okay.
So that's the next one. So you got, oh, I'm sorry, I'm not supposed to touch that table. But you fellas and gals that are interested in it, Invictus, INVICTUS.
Cool.
So Google it.
That's great.
Be fun to see it.
This is VRM Veterans Radio Ministry. We're broadcasting around the world, and we are so blessed. First of all, to have Drew as our, thank you, Drew.
We love you, Drew.
No, I'm just an old dog man. I do not have the technology that this young man has. And Drew, thank you so much for helping us out today. We're able to get a couple of things out, and hopefully we'll be able to get back in the studio more. We've had our educational building here. It was been used by a grade school next to us here, where they were running out of room and were waiting for a building to be built. And
waiting on the Lord, I'll still be waiting. Oh, I'm sorry. I lost there. I don't know what happened.
We're outside this. We had the little kids in here. We had the preschoolers that were in this room next to us and room over here. And when I would come here to the studio in the afternoon before they were let out, you see these little backpacks all lined up. And of course, I've got my backpack here. And I was just going to put my backpack at the very end. And when they lined up, I was going to put my backpack on and say, I was wondering who's going to come pick me up and take me home. But you know, I said, I better get inside and get back to work. But it's been a blessing to see these little voices, even though we can't record while they're here because they're pounding on the walls and having a good time,
Right.
But it's been a blessing because you see these smiling little faces. And when I opened the door today, before we were doing some sound checks and Drew went to get some water for us, I see this little head come around the corner. He goes, "Hi." I said, "Hi, how are you?" He says, "I'm doing good." It just kind of brightens you up. Anytime you look at the face of a child and that smile, it comes from the heart. And I think that's where it goes, right here, right here. Thank you so much for coming to Last Patrol. And remember, help us if you can spread the word. And a couple of ways you can do that is through your media, through your Facebook friends and whatever you have, if you're a Twitter tweet or whatever you are, please, you can download our site. So you can go to Veterans Radio Ministry, download our website, and send that on. And we're broadcasting 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Plus we have our TV channel on ROKU and YouTube and Facebook, where you can come and see some of our programs. Plus we are now on ROKU. We're now on Apple TV. We're also now on Fire TV. And that's where you can listen to the radio station also. And if you want to see some of our programs, actually view them, of course, you can go to YouTube and also Roku. And what's that? Rumble. Sorry, Rumble. Yeah, Rumble, YouTube, Facebook. That's where you can see some of our programs. And you can go to our website, and we have some of our past things that we've done as sermons and so forth that we've done throughout the years are on there, and some of our Last Patrol shows. But help us out this way. Help us by spreading the word, spreading this freely. Anywhere that you want to spread our radio program or share it, we're opening up. We're trying to help. Recently, we just become part of VetNet, which is Veterans Network, and we have an organization which is up in Washington State, and this is a special radio broadcast that they do for the blind. Mm-hmm. And so we've found some of the old radio shows and neat stuff like that we're able to help them with and bring up there. And also they can listen to our Last Patrol radio show for blind veterans. And also there's a part of that group that we're working with up there is a Christian gospel radio that's carrying now the Last Patrol also on their radio programming. So we're expanding. And the only reason why we're expanding is because the Lord is opening doors for us and being able to reach us out. We have a small budget. We aren't hardly any budget now, but we have a very small budget, and we can't afford, buying all these ad spots and all this stuff. And we truly believe that from the Word of God, through your lips, through your heart, and you spread this station out, it's going to be way beyond our expectations. I would never have thought that when last month, when all this occurred with Apple TV and Roku and some of the other things, that now just through Roku alone, we have the access of 96 million people that can listen to the show. I could go on it for free and listen. But just the access. We don't have 96 million listeners, of course. If we did, that would be awesome. but the access is out there worldwide. And so it's out there. We want to reach the word, but we have to be invited. We have to have people tell each other about it. And that way it will help spread the word and spread the good news of Jesus Christ. And this is our commercial. And what I'm going to do when we leave this program today, I'm going to ask Debbie to do our little thing for our VRM identification that goes on throughout the radio station when we have a station ID.
Mhm.
We're going to be doing that. So I'm going to let you read that over. No pressure. No, sorry.
Can I say, are we still?
Yeah, we're still talking.
P.S.
Yes.
If you're blind, don't think that they don't have a program for you
Oh,
with the
yes.
Warrior Games and Invictus, because yes, they do. We had one of the best blind swimmers that was on the swim team with my son.
Cool.
Phenomenal. They just, when you come to your place and you're at the end, they just tap you, and then you do your turn, swim away. He swam like a fish. That's what that guy did. His name was Mike.
That is
Amazing.
awesome. Well, we're going to be talking to you down the road and probably next week about swimming also. And our annual Frogman Dogman swim. We'll be talking about that with you. Thanks again for listening to VRM, Veterans Radio Ministry. And Drew, thank you for all your work. This is VRM, Veterans Radio Ministry, broadcasting the truth and life of Jesus Christ around the world. Thanks for listening. Goodbye now.